Hey, how's it going, everybody? The other day I saw this really cool poster on Pinterest, and I want to show you how to do this kind of frosted overlay effect. We're going to be starting off in Illustrator and moving into Photoshop, so let's get started. All right, so I got the poster over here on this side, and the poster that we're going to be making today is for one of my favorite movies, 1 Hour Photo with Robin Williams. I just thought that this type of effect really lends itself to this movie. All right, so we're going to type out our text here, and I'm using Helvetica Neue Limited Standard Condensed. Oblique. That's a mouthful. All right, so now I'm just going to make sure that it's generally centered on the page, but we need to go in and do some kerning. And this is a very nice font, so we want to make sure that we do some really nice kerning here. Let's kind of bring this into where this needs to be. The main thing when you're kerning your type is that you want each letter to breathe on its own, and you want to make sure that there is a harmony between the letters that are next to it. So for example, between this O and this T right here, we want to make sure that there's plenty of room in here because we have this space that the T is taking up. The T itself is a little bit further away because of the relationship of the shape of the T. Here it is set to auto. There's just a little bit too much space there, so we'll go back to our kerning. All right, so from this point, I'm going to select the text. I'm happy with this. So we're just going to create outlines, and now we can center this to where it's dead center. Now we know that that is definitely centered on the page. All right, so my artboard is 18 by 24 inches. So what I want is a 2-inch margin on both sides. So we're gonna bring this in by 4 inches. And here's the square that we're gonna be laying down. This is what's eventually gonna turn into this frosted overlay, but we're gonna do that in Photoshop. However, whenever you're using a poster like this as inspiration, you wanna use that as just that, inspiration. So let's do something different that's gonna be unique to 1 Hour Photo. And the best thing I can think of is to make this a film cell. So I'm gonna create a couple of squares up here at the top. We'll make it precise. I'm gonna go all the way across, bring this in by 1/2 inch, and I'm gonna use my blend tool to create some copies in between those two. And odd numbers are always better than even numbers, so just remember that. I'm gonna set this to 3 and hit OK. I'm gonna go to Object, Expand, and expand Object and Fill. And now that's gonna create instances of each one of these being their own individual objects. So now we'll copy this down here, move it up 1/2 inch. And normally you would have a white space on the inside of this, but I'm gonna leave this as black right now simply because I want that effect to be carried through everywhere that you see black. So we're gonna select all 3 of these elements right here and go over here to Pathfinder and click on minus front. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna knock out all of those white areas right there. So as you can see, all of those white elements are gone and we're left with just the black piece that will eventually become our overlay. All right, so let's center this right here. And I'm going to go ahead and swap the fill and the stroke for now, just so I can see where everything is laying on top of this text. Part of the text is going to be behind it, and the rest of the text is going to be unaffected by it. So I want to get an idea of what text is going to be affected so I can plan. All right, so now we're going to make sure that we are centered, and I am happy with where this is. However, I'm going to make this a little bit more precise, and probably 6 inches should be pretty good. All right, so now I'm gonna swap the fill and the stroke again, and let's go ahead and lay down the rest of our type. And the cast itself is actually pretty minimal beyond Robin Williams' name, so I'm just gonna add the main players here. And we can bring the font up to about 30 points here, and I'll just arrange the type. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. That's looking good. Let's make sure that Robin Williams' name, it just kind of looks like it was hanging out there, kind of disconnected from the rest of them. So let's make sure that we get everything where it needs to go. And now we will redo the distribution. There we go, perfect. Now we'll get the director's name down here and we'll attach that to the bottom. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do here, before I move anything to Photoshop, is I'm gonna select everything and we're gonna make this all one unified color, probably around 20% black or so. And the reason why is because we're gonna be applying effects and we want those effects to show on the text. All right, looking good. So here's the overall structure of our poster. Now let's move it all into Photoshop and start applying these effects. All right, so the text that's going to be largely unaffected is going to be the cast members and the director. So we'll copy those and we'll put them onto their own layer in Photoshop. We're going to paste it as a smart object just in case we want to go in and make any kind of edits. And we'll just say here, cast and director, always name your layers. All right, next we need to copy over the title and the film cell. However, we need to separate these elements before we copy and paste them into Photoshop, because the outer text is going to be one color and the inner text is going to be a separate color. So what we're going to do is select everything here. I'm going to copy and paste this over here just in case we need to come back to it for any reason. Select everything, go over here to Pathfinder and click on Divide. And what that's going to do is it's going to divide up these elements right here based on the placement of them. So we need to grab with our direct selection tool the inside of these letters. Also make sure that we grab this little part of the H right here. So we're gonna hit copy, come over here to Photoshop and paste as a smart object. So as you can see, this is gonna be the portion that's gonna be affected by the overlay of the film cell. And now that we've got that copied over, we can just delete that. But don't worry, we'll fix the film cell before we bring it over into Photoshop. So now again, with our direct selection tool selected, we're gonna select the rest of the text, and we can come over here and grab this on this side as well. We don't have to keep those two separated. And now we'll paste this as a smart object, and we'll just line this up right here. This all looks like one unit, but it's actually two separate units. And in just a few minutes, we'll be able to color those accordingly. Okay, now with our direct selection tool selected, let's go ahead and get rid of all the black text. And now let's just go over here and draw a black square, the same color as the film cell. And now we'll select this area with our direct selection tool, very important, and click on Unite. So now we're back to our repaired film cell. All right, so now we just got to copy this film cell over. So we hit copy on our keyboard and go over here to Photoshop and paste as a smart object. And now this film cell is laying perfectly on top of the text that's going to be affected by that color. All right, so let's name these layers here, outer text and inner text. And for the inner text, we're going to double click on this, go over here to color overlay, and I'll probably just do red. That's a pretty prominent color that's in the movie. We'll hit OK. All right, so now we got to bring up our film cell, and what we're going to do here is lower the opacity to 10%. And now let's click on our inner text right here, and we're going to go up here to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur. And we want to raise this up to a certain point where you can still read it no matter what the text says. I think that 30 is still legible. I think I'm going to leave it at 25 though. And I think that I'm going to switch this over from red to blue because of the colors in the Save Mart store. So we hit OK. All right, so now I want to add a slight Gaussian blur on the film cell itself. Because we're going to be adding some overlays in here, I want those effects to be picked up. All right, I have this layer right here. It's just an image of film grain, so we're just going to lay it on top of this. And we're going to switch the blend mode from normal to overlay. And as you can see, we're really getting some good pixelation right here, some really good grain happening. And it really fits in well here because the main character is a film developer. All right, so we're seeing the effects on the text right here that's not blurred. However, it can be a little bit stronger than it is right now. So all we have to do is go to our outer text, go over here to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur, and all it's going to take is about a 5 pixel radius right there. So we'll just hit OK, and I'm really happy with that. One thing that we need to do down here at the bottom is because our background is 100% white, we need to add a solid color layer that's not 100% white because we want those grain effects to show up. So I'd say probably around 95 is a good number, and now we're seeing those effects. And for the sake of consistency, let's go ahead and add a Gaussian blur on the cast and director layer, but not 5 pixels. So we'll do like maybe 2 pixels. All right, so here is our 1 hour photo film cell poster that is overlaid on the title. And it's really cool because it's creating this blurred effect that you can easily achieve by just doing Gaussian blurs in Photoshop. I would love to see your interpretation of this poster. Let me know down in the comments if you decide to do something. All right, well, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe and click the bell for notifications to be notified of all future videos. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.